And we are ready when you are.
Thank you. I'm Andrea Garrity, and I am representing Wexford Science and Technology in this application, which is a site demolition application for the property at 3440 Forbes Avenue. I'm not sure what that 3444 Forbes Avenue address is in your record, but it is 3440. And Mike, we have presenting here today Will Masters, who is with Turner Construction, who is the project manager for this demolition, and Mike Dembert, who's available for answering questions at the end of the presentation. Mike, I'll ask you to just go on to the first slide. This is really to familiarize yourself. We're going to be talking about the site overview and familiarizing everybody with the location. As you can see on the location map, this property is between Forbes Avenue and Iroquois, which is the alley behind the property, and between Halkett and Coltart. It is immediately to the west of the hotel, the Hilton Garden Inn, which is on the corner of Forbes Avenue and McKee Place. You can see the image of the hotel on the upper right-hand side of this slide. The area circled or squared in the red square is the former CVS store, which is vacant and has been vacant for several years. And that is where the demolition itself is going to occur. And you can see in the lower photograph on the right-hand side, the front of the building a little closer so you can see what's going to be demolished. Next slide. This shows you the property without any outlines, and you can see the Hilton Garden Inn, the taller building, the CVS, and then there's a parking lot along the corner of Forbes Avenue and Coltart. During demolition, that area will be used as part of the demolition site, but that parking area will then be returned once demolition is complete. These are the current site conditions last November. Mike, can you go to the next slide, please? Again, another slide showing you the front of the building. And I believe we have several slides here as we can just run through them. This is the side where the drive-through is, and what you see on the far right-hand side of this diagram is the edge of Iroquois, which is the alley behind the property. Okay, this is another view into the parking lot. This looks like the view off of Forbes Avenue, just showing you where the parking entrance is. And that eventually that parking entrance will remain. What we intend to do here, which I've already said, is we'll demolish the above grade improvements so that we can prepare for future site work for the construction of a lab office building in 2024. That project still needs to go before the Planning Commission, but at the moment, this is merely a demolition application, and we want to talk about how we will be doing the demolition. As I said, Turner Construction is the construction manager, and we do intend, and we'll get to this as we go through the slide, once the building demolition is complete, we'll be fencing that area with a printed scrim, and the existing surface parking lot will remain in the interim before construction of the new project begins. Mike, the next slide. We're going to turn this over now to Will Masters from Turner Construction, and Will's going to talk about the project and how the project will be managed in this Oakland area location. Will?
Thanks, Andrea, and good evening, everybody. So our overall approach that we put together here was the global idea is to minimize impact to the community. So as Andrea mentioned, we do have I'm going to call it a luxury related to the existing parking lot where you can see the excavator. We've taken a few snapshots here of the demolition process to try to communicate the impact. So this first aspect of things, we would not be having any closed sidewalks on Coltart or Forbes. We would be demoing what we're calling the south of the building, which is the blue area. The impact on the left side, we have about a week of time where we were going to be right on that Iroquois Way side of it, that we would have about a week of impact related to Iroquois Way before opening it back up. So this is really contained within the site. And before I go through in more detail here, this is an early overall view. This would all be submitted with a stamped registered plan for demolition through the city of Pittsburgh when we get to that point. So this overall phase here, this blue phase, is about a 4-week process where we'd have about a week of impact along Iroquois Way. Then we would demo inside of the blue area all the way up to the bay that's along Forbes Avenue. Again, we expect this phase to take about 4 weeks. Next slide, Mike. When we're to Forbes Avenue, we would then work within the footprint of the existing building, and we would remove the red portion of it. This is what we're calling our phase 2. This would have about a week of impact overall. And during this time frame, we want to ensure that everything is done safely. We would be looking or requesting to close a lane of Forbes Avenue and the sidewalk for that week duration prior to reopening once the building has been removed. Next slide, Mike. And then this is the last of the slides. This is really the final condition that we would be leaving it in. As Andrea mentioned, we would be filling in to ensure that there aren't any depressions or basement areas. All that would be filled in. We would break the existing slab, so to ensure that we don't have any ponding water or anything along those lines. We would have post-driven fence. What that is just to ensure that we don't have any sort of opportunity for the fence to blow over or anything along those lines, with a scrim attached to that fence to keep it nice looking. During this phase, we would have all the sidewalks would be reopened. The parking lot that we mentioned earlier, where that little A is, that would be reopened for parking, and we would just have a fence around what was the existing building. Next slide. All right, Mike, if you want to just go through schedule a little bit.
Sure. Thanks, Will. Good evening, everyone. Mike Dembert. I'm Vice President Development with Wexford. So as Andrea said, this application is strictly focused on the demolition of the building, but just wanted to quickly touch on schedule. This is to prepare for future development, but again, we're just talking about the demolition here for the moment. So where we are today, we're early May. We're having our development activities meeting. We would anticipate getting on Planning Commission's schedule as soon as we can, maybe June or July of this year, to present the demo application. And then we would start demolition really as soon as we get our permit. So, we're dependent, again, this is dependent on when we go before Planning Commission, but, assuming maybe late summer for start of construction, as Will just went through on the last couple of slides, the total duration is only about 6 or 7 weeks for demolition, so perhaps an early fall completion. And again, this is preparing the site for future development, which we would be coming back through and having another development activities meeting, and then going again before Planning Commission with the final building design. But we're anticipating that would be happening in the middle of next year. And construction is approximately an 18-month duration. So, if you assume a mid-2024 groundbreaking on the eventual project, that would be a completion in late 25 or perhaps first quarter of 26. But again, we'll be back at a future date to cover that. And with that, I think we will open for any questions.
Okay, it looks like Mavis Rainey has her hand up.
Hello, everyone. Hi, Andrea. How are you?
I am well, thanks. Nice to see you.
Just a few questions. Do you know if there have been conversations with UPMC about the access to their facility garage along Iroquois Way during demolition?
I don't know whether there has been discussion yet. We know that we will have to have discussion before we get to the point of involving, as we will with all the neighbors along Iroquois, to make sure that we have made the appropriate arrangements with the individual property owners.
Okay, so and if I may, just a few more questions. Iroquois also is an access point for Pitt for their public safety building. There's a back access there as well. So I would also encourage conversations with Pitt facilities if that hasn't come onto your radar. Do you know if parking is going to be impacted on Coltart adjacent to where the demolition is going to occur? I saw that the sidewalk is open on Forbes, but I didn't see anything regarding the parking on Coltart.
Mike, should we go back to that slide? I don't remember the answer. Maybe Will knows.
Sure, yeah, Will can.
Yeah, we would
Take
not
this
be affecting the parking on Coltart.
Okay, okay. And then two more questions, I promise, and I'll shut up. After the completion of the demolition of the site and you're going to fence it, do you know if there are any intentions to add lighting to kind of lighten up the sidewalk in the area along Forbes?
We could definitely do that and accomplish that. That would not be a problem.
Okay, and then one more, if I may, the schedule, just a heads up, if you're not aware already, if we're moving into late summer, potentially, student arrival for the University of Pittsburgh would be the week of August the 19th, the 21st. That's a very, very busy time, certainly within Central Oakland. There's a lot of movement in that area. So if I may, just some considerations for how impactful that's going to be if you're going to be literally still continuing with the demolition.
That's a good, it's good information, and I appreciate that. You know, in terms of a schedule, everything depends on what happens next. When do we
Sure.
get to planning commission? When do we get through the permitting process? But knowing when Pitt's students come back for purposes of Will's planning, that makes great sense.
Okay, and
Thanks
Will,
for letting us know.
absolutely, and Will, the MPT, I'm assuming you're going to be working with Domi
Yes.
on MPT. If you could also, we love to assist with the outreach. We typically would get notifications from Domi on that. So,
Okay, definitely.
okay, thank you.
The next person we have with their hand raised is Georgia.
Yes, hi there. Hi, Andrea. Hey, Michael.
Hey,
If
everybody.
you just answer my
Hello.
question. If you were to block off any portion of Forbes, just FYI, yeah, August is a big month for freshman return. And there will be various streets actually blocked off throughout Oakland as a result of that. So, but looks like you covered it. Thank you.
And we don't, you know, we anticipate, because of the location of, because of the parking lot area, we can do a tremendous amount of the demolition on the site itself. So street impact on street is going to be less than it would otherwise be if we didn't have that parking area.
Thank you.
And we do have one question in the Q&A tool. I'll read it as is. Where are the voices fighting to protect and preserve Pittsburgh's handsome pre-war architecture? This seems to be another example of city officials and players destroying another example of Pittsburgh's pre-war built culture, history, and environment, which will be replaced by an ugly, cheap-looking prefab building, which could be found along any US interstate. Pittsburgh developers never replace an old building with a better looking structure, and these prefab buildings never have comparable handcraft or artistry. Why not require adaptive reuse? why not require the developers to preserve Pittsburgh's architectural history and build on in a sensitive and aesthetically comparable way? They do this in London all the time. This seems to be another example of developers making money by gutting Pittsburgh's pre-war architecture.
Would you like us to respond?
Yes, please.
Sure. So look, couple of things. We will be back in the future, like I said, to present the eventual project here, but I'll just say a couple of things to that question. Compatibility with the surrounding neighborhood is always an important thing for us. We Wexford, we do work all over the country with universities and hospitals, and it's critical for us when we look at a project to be authentic to the neighborhood. We don't plop up a building in the middle of a neighborhood that looks like it belongs on the side of the freeway. We just completed a project just about a mile away in Bloomfield, which is an adaptive reuse of the Ford Motor Company building, which was historically restored into labs for the University of Pittsburgh and some private companies. So, I'll just say this will not be a cheap prefab building. It will be a high quality laboratory research building. But again, we'll be back sometime next year to discuss that.
Just from a factual point of view, this isn't pre-war architecture. This building is much more recently constructed.
Thank you for those responses, Mike and Andrea. Next, we have Molly with her hand raised.
Thank you. I just wanted to know if we will be able to access this presentation or any visual graphics regarding the demolition that we could pass out to people. This was not something we had received before, so I was just wondering if we could have that in our hands.
Sure.
I don't see any reason why not.
And I do have a small question about the condition of the site once the building is demolished and before you start to construct. Will it be packed fill or gravel, or what will the condition of the site be?
We would leave mostly the existing slab on grade would remain. We would just break the slab on grade to allow it to drain properly, just to ensure that we don't have water ponding. There is a partial basement that would get filled with crushed concrete. That would not be brick or anything along those lines. It would be gravel, essentially, to bring it back up to the grade. The reason for that is just to ensure that there isn't any depression that would allow anybody that, let's say, would potentially get into the site to have a fall hazard. So there would not be any fall hazards. It would be a level site at that point.
Thank you.
Yep.
And when demolition is complete, the parking lot will be reopened until the parking lot that exists there will reopen.
Thank you. And then just a follow-up comment. The crown at the top of the building says Murdoch 1928.
Oh, the exterior of the building has been completely changed since the building was constructed.
Are there any other questions or comments for 3440 Forbes Avenue? Okay, not seeing any more hands raised or any other comments or questions in the Q&A tool. Okay, well, thank you all. We appreciate the time here today. And we appreciate the presentation. And so it sounds like there was a request from Molly to get some additional presentation materials. And so hopefully you can send that to her or to that organization shortly.
We can do that.
Will do.
Thank
you,
you.
everyone.
Thanks very much. Bye-bye.
The next item or the next project is 4040 Bigelow Boulevard. Do we have those presenters ready?
Well, yeah, this is Mike Bliss with Way Architecture. Wasn't sure if Father Darcy or Father Reed would be on the call as well, but I don't, are they on?
Let me check. Oh, we do have a Brother Reed. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Me. Let me promote.
I'm gonna walk through the preliminary set of drawings. I was hoping either one of them would maybe give a little bit of the backstory on the history of the project. And there he is. Got on mute, Brother Reed.
Father Mike should be here also. He's logged on, but he's not in the panelist mode. Maybe it's MJ Darcy.
No, I don't see an MJ Darcy in the attendees.
Father Mike. He's
The Pittsburgh Oratory? No?
yeah, yep.
Hi, everybody. I'm here. Can you hear me? It was kind of agonizing to hear you talking about me. Okay.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, so I made it. Thanks for having me. Glad.
Father
glad
Mike,
to-
your video isn't on. If you wanted that to be on,
Okay.
we can't see it.
Okay. Yeah, here I am. Well, good. Yeah, Mike was talking about a little introduction. I'd be happy to provide one. I don't know how much is needed, but we've been at the house. I think we bought the house in 2017 up on 4040 Bigelow. And we've done a lot to clean it up. Done a tremendous, but the back project was has been it's just taken a long time for us to get this project kind of going in a decisive way, but I'm convinced we're there. And we have the Bridges guys here with us to kind of provide a lot of detail concerning what our plans are, and I'm sure they can get into the weeds to everyone's satisfaction. But the basic idea is that we have a kind of a mixed zoning status. And we need a handicapped accessible ramp coming to the back for our chapel. And again, the Bridges guys can tell you exactly what we have in mind. But then there's also like a back space, that was actually, we've kind of determined, all the architects agree, everyone who's ever been involved with the project has agreed that it was originally a porch. And then the porch was enclosed to kind of resemble an addition to the house. And that's what we're going to kind of renovate. And we're going to do it all according to architectural standards and really make it in keeping with the house. Although that having been said, most of it is completely hidden from view. It's not visible. Almost none of that is visible from the street. But we are determined to make it look nice, just so that the house looks nice from all angles. And then we also have a stairwell addition on the right side of the house, or right side as you're facing the house. I suppose it's on the left, but and that there again, most of that will be hidden from view. But the architects have a plan for making that nice, and they'll be able to take you through all that. Aside from that, I don't know. Is there anything in particular anybody's interested to know about our involvement with the project?
Father Michael, I think that's enough. At this point, I could probably get started just sharing the drawings. And
Yeah, good.
Be a little more self-explanatory once you see it.
Good.
So how do I'm trying to see how to share my screen.
You should have, if you have the Zoom app downloaded on your computer, you should have a row of tools at the bottom, and the share screen might be a green square with an arrow.
Okay, hold on 1 second. Let's see. Here it is.
Mike, I could share this screen if I have your set of drawings here.
I think I got it.
Okay.
All right. Can everyone see the site
Oh,
plan?
perfect. Yep.
Yes.
Okay, so let's just start with the site plan. This will give you an overview of all the projects that Father Michael is leading up to. And just to orient you, this is Bigelow Boulevard. This is right up from Parkman Street, and then the Shenley Apartments are right across the street on Bigelow, up probably about 300 feet up the street. So this is Bigelow. This is the outline of the existing Hornbostel designed home. And then this is the tow line of the existing retaining wall that rides around pretty much the length of the back of the property. And this is the existing garage that you see from Bigelow Boulevard. These two pictures, this one kind of shows the front of the house. The garage is just right out of frame here. And then this is that stone retaining wall that pretty much goes the whole length of the house up to the edge of the property. So that gives you the orientation of what, where the house is. Now, the projects that we're looking at, the first one that we're looking at, we need like we were talking about, the whole point of this is to make the first floor of the house accessible. So our accessible entry point we were determining is where is the most level spot as you go up Bigelow Boulevard. So it ends up being about approximately right here. So this involves removal of a small portion of the stone wall, and then an installation of a wrought iron gate. We haven't decided on the design yet. We have a couple images showing some examples, but it's really more of a visual deterrent than a security deterrent. Right now, there's a wire fence that runs around this section of the property that we're going to tear down and install a new landscaping buffer instead. So the security, it's not meant for security, but it's more just to keep people from wandering up, down the sidewalk and up into the back of the property. The second is the new accessible path that we're going to build to ADA standards. Like it's pretty level at this point, but we're probably going to have to do some change of grade just to make sure we comply with all ADA standards. And it pretty much rides along the line of the existing retaining wall and brings you to the third part, which is the addition itself. I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. It's a little far away. So this is the new addition extension, as Father Michael was saying, off of the existing sun porch. This is going to house the new ADA toilet and an entry, the new accessible entrance with a covered entryway. And the last thing is the stair that he was talking about, which is on the south side of the property, adjacent to a residential neighbor. So the concern was obviously about the visual impact that this would have on that neighbor. This would be a concrete porch step that gets you direct access to the basement from the outside. But this brick wall will be about 48 inches above the grade and built with a brick veneer, matching in the pattern and style to the existing house. So that kind of gives you the overview of everything at the site plan. Again, we talked about, these are just samples right now for the entry gates. We'll go to the next screen. This is the first floor plan. And we hatched everything that's new is hatched solid. Everything that's not hatched is pretty much the existing to remain. Again, this is the perimeter of the Hornbostel house. You got your existing kitchen, existing chapel, living area, and a study. This is obviously your main entry hall with the architectural stair taking you to the second floor. So the extent of the addition really is this toilet, ADA toilet, the new entry with a kind of a screening wall. So it is screened from the chapel. We ended up putting it outside. We did do some studies to see if it would work on the inside, but the resultant wasn't that great of a space for a chapel. Leaving you only with about 6 chairs at that point. So the decision was to push it outside. It goes out about 7'4" by 14'8". And then we have this covered entryway. The other modifications we need to do, this is the existing planning wall. It's a really nice stone planning wall, and some actually the retaining wall itself has these awesome plantings that change as the seasons change. But then we have to do some minor modifications to the planning area just to have a free and clear path around the new addition. Like I said, it's coming out about 7'4". And then this part is an existing brick paved patio that we're going to pull up the existing brick pavers, regrade it for a maximum slope of 1 in 12 to meet ADA, and then reinstall the brick pavers. This will avoid the need for a handicap ramp, which one of our earlier designs had a big concrete ramp with a railing. We're gonna be able to avoid all that now, because the grade change is so small. Actually, this raises up. You know, it slopes down from this point, so it'll be a pretty minimal slope. And this is the top of the new accessible route that takes you down to Bigelow Boulevard. Again, over here is the stair down to the basement. And entails taking out part of the sidewalk, taking out the window well, new concrete stair down, and then this is the masonry wall, screen wall that again will screen the neighbor from seeing the concrete stair. And I believe in this is that same plan at the basement level, where we have to take out a glass block window, put in a new door, and this will get them directly down to the basement level. I think that's it for this screen. We can circle back to any of these if we have to at the end when we get some questions. So for the exterior elevations, our intent was to make the exterior design of the new addition as respectful, you know, obviously to the existing Horn Bossel home as possible. Stucco cladding, you know, on the new addition. Roof design is going to be metal standing seam roof to match the existing porch roof outside the kitchen. New windows are going to have true divided light look to them. Double hung where they were double hung, sliders where they were sliders on the replacement. In fact, if we start with this north elevation, this is the existing sun porch, which is 2 stories in height. It's actually a bedroom on the 2nd floor. And then this is the extent of the addition that you see from the north elevation. This is the view you would see as you come to the top of the accessible path from Bigelow. But then if you go down to the west elevation here, gives you more about the relationship that we're creating with the stucco cladding of the new addition to meet the stucco cladding of the sun porch. The windows are going to be changed out. They're pretty old windows, not insulated. So these will be new slider windows at the top, and then double hungs on the 1st floor. The metal roof is going to match the metal roof. Right here is this is the existing porch. It's outside the kitchen that we keep referring to. This metal roof will match in color and style to the color and style of this roof. And then even the post and the brackets and beams of the covered porch area, which you'll see on the renderings, is intended to match the porch post and beams and brackets of that existing porch again. So we're not trying to think outside the box or try to create some kind of dynamic change to the addition. We really want it to blend as much as possible. And that'll be up for everyone else's judgment, but that was our intent, to keep this as simple and respectful as possible of a design. On the south elevation, you only see a little bit of the back of the addition. And then this represents the section here, that area that we were enclosing on the outside niche for pretty much making it a tool shed. Right now, all that equipment is being stored on the 1st floor of the sun porch. One thing we're keeping in mind on this design of that niche, and I want to go back to that is right here, the small wall and door to enclose this, which is right now it's outside. So in the design of this roof, we have to make sure we want to maintain this arch stained glass window, which is pretty important on both inside and outside of the house. This picture here represents the window that we're intending to use, which is the Anderson E series. Again, the true divided light, insulated windows, double hungs. We're going to have double hungs, and then the sliders will be up at the 2nd floor. Color is to be determined. Right now, I think we're thinking of a white or an off-white, whatever's closest to the match of the existing house. And on the floor, lower right is the elevation of that brick retaining wall that screens the stair to the basement. This stack bond veneer matches. It's not shown here on this elevation, but up in the 2nd floor, the whole perimeter of the house, there's a stacked brick bond. And so wherever we have exposed brick throughout, we're going to match that brick pattern. And let's go to the next page where we have the 3D renderings to help you visualize a little better. On the north elevation, this part here is the existing sun porch. And again, we're gonna repair, patch and probably paint the existing stucco, paint and patch all the trim. It's right now, it's a wood trim that goes around all these windows. The windows are gonna be removed, replaced with the new windows. We're not touching the existing roof at all, existing gutters that are there, all to remain. The new addition only rises up to just the sill height of the existing second floor windows. And then the covered porch, and then this shows you a detail of how we're trying to replicate the post and beam and the bracket design of the existing porch that's here. So this is the rendering, and this is the actual photo of the kitchen porch. And then the west elevation shows you a little bit more of the side elevation. And we're going to try to put some planning around, and then this one window which we have outside the vestibule is almost an exact replica of one of the windows that's outside this kitchen porch once again. So everything has been, all the cues have been pulled right from the existing house without, trying to change any type of radical new design. These are, again, some photographs that you can see. I'm going to zoom in a little bit on this, just to give you an idea of the condition of the existing sun porch. It kind of has fallen into disrepair over the past few years. We did do a structural analysis already, preliminary, and it was determined with our engineer that, this can be salvaged. I think in the previous design, it was slated to be torn down. And, talking with Father Reed and Father Michael, the size of this space was more than adequate for them for the size of chapel that they wanted to represent. So that's pretty much it. And then this rendering here shows that retaining wall, screen wall for the stair down to the basement. I think that's the quick overview. I can leave it open for any questions. We do have Ray C. from Bridges Construction. I don't know if he's available or if he's muted right now. And then Greg Newman also from Way Architecture is online. But we can open it up to any questions you might have.
It looks like we have 2 hands raised. I'm going to unmute Liz.
If Norm Cleary also has his hand raised, I think it'd be best if he goes first.
Okay. Norm, you're now able to speak.
Thank you. Thanks, Mike. That was pretty clear review of what you guys intend to do. And I just have to commend you. The respect that you've shown for the building is really appreciated from an historic preservation standpoint. And I know that Father Mike's wanted to get this chapel project moving for a long time, so I'm pleased to see that it's happening. So just a couple of things related to the appropriateness of the work. The vertical stack bond on the stairway is also truly appreciated, and I assume you're going to select a brick that is as close to the color of the existing brick as you can. Although, it's probably going to be pretty hard to get that right on target. But you were going to say?
No, I'm just zooming in a little bit on the bricks. So you can see it. It's nothing like this is showing more of a blend, but I think it's more of a straight color. So I don't think it'll be that difficult. It's just matching the mortar joint width and all that too as well.
Right. My only concern, well, I'm too concerned about the stairway. One I'm going to live with. Once that stairway goes in, which I think is 3 feet 8 inches from the foundation, that leaves 3 feet to the property line, which is adequate. That sidewalk is what's used for mail delivery. Our sidewalk connects with the 44 Bigelow sidewalk. So 4323 Parkman rear sidewalk connects to 4040 Bigelow sidewalk, mostly for the rear mailbox access. The concern is with stormwater drainage. there's a lot of stormwater that now comes down off the retaining wall. And back in 2020, I submitted a letter that showed the stormwater drainage coming down the front steps to the sidewalk on Parkman Avenue. So that 3 foot 8 inch stairwell wall is likely to become an obstacle for any surface water drainage that comes down that sidewalk. And that's unless a storm drain is placed above that wall, that's going to just push that wall out toward push the water out toward the property line. So I don't know if you've taken that into consideration and if it's possible to connect to a drain when you excavate down to get to the basement. But my concern is that if we don't do something, that stormwater is gonna push across.
Yeah, yeah, I know, this is still preliminary level, but yeah, we're going to have a drain at the bottom of the stairs. Obviously, keep the basement from flooding, but I think, yeah, I don't think it'd be a problem because we're going to be tying in anyhow. And I can Bridges talk a little more in depth about putting another yard drain out here. Is that what you're talking about, right?
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
A rectangular drain in front of that wall, I think would certainly relieve our anxiety about surface water drainage during a heavy rainfall. Also related to stormwater, the grade that you're going to have to put in for ADA compliance on the ramp will undoubtedly shift any drainage from the hillside down toward the Bigelow Boulevard side of the ramp. So that's certainly not a concern for us, but just so you're well aware that we can get quite a bit of drainage off the hillside. Your PRSP1 that you're showing here is a little different from the drawing that was posted on OPDC's website. So this shows your gate, and if I understood you correctly, you are going to remove the existing non-compliant chain link fence and replace it with a wrought iron or wrought iron look fence that would then go from the garage all the way over to the Fairfield Lane steps. Is that correct?
No, actually, the wrought iron gate and then a little bit of fencing would be right at this opening where the entry point is. Where the fence is coming down, in discussions with Father Reed and Father Michael, they're fine with this just being a landscaping, new landscaping buffer put in, versus having the wrought iron fence go all the way across.
So but the chain link does come out, right?
Yes, the chain link is 100% coming out, and then it's
okay. All right. Well, that's cool. I'm sure that'll look great. So I guess then that you'll install 2 pillars that will then support the gate.
Yeah. Well, I need Ray from Bridges on because he's the one that talks about the pricing all the time. But yeah, originally we were thinking that these could be pillars similar to what you see in the images up here. But again, we know we're gonna have to do some patching and some modification of those walls once we cut them because they are existing stone. So there's going to be sometimes it's best to make it a pillar so you don't see the change as much.
Yeah, got it. Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, we want to talk a little bit further along with those because they are in charge of the budget. But yeah.
My last
Sharonda, maybe you could there's a guy named Ray on there. Ray's from Bridges Construction, and he would have, I think, some useful. Yeah.
Hello.
There's Ray.
I'm Ray. Yes, a couple comments as far as the yard drain behind the steps. I don't think that'll be a problem at all. There is a downspout in that back corner that we could easily tie into the same piping, so that shouldn't be an issue. And as far as the gate, that'll be up to the fathers if they're on board with doing a couple pillars there on either side to tie the gate into. That's all right. We hadn't really committed or decided one way or another on whether it would just be posts and then just the wrought iron gate or stone columns on either side.
You
think,
already, if I could just point out that on facing the house on the left-hand side, there either is or was a gate that is the entrance into the sidewalk where the new stairway is going to go. And that was a wooden gate, and that has stone pillars on, well, it's a stone pillar, I think, on the left side, and then it ties in to the building on the right side. So that would be something similar to that would be consistent with the existing gate on the left side of the building.
Remember that. You mentioned it, yeah.
That's this gate here.
No, I'm go all the way over to the new basement stairway.
Yeah.
Above the steps, right in, there's a line that you show that stops at the sidewalk. Right, well, up from midway, right around where your arrow is. There's a gate there, a wooden gate. And then there's a stone pillar to the left that gate attaches to.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, Norm, I think the gate that you're describing, it's not actually a gate anymore. There's just the remaining stone pillar there.
Oh, so the gate's gone?
The gate's been gone, I think it basically as long as we've had the house.
Okay. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay. Well,
we can look at
just a
those
thought.
options.
My last comment is the tree canopy over where the new gate is going to be creates a relatively dark area at night. And I'm not sure what you have planned in the way of landscape lighting or illumination of that new entrance. But from a safety standpoint, it would be wise to have something in that area, particularly since I don't know if that gate's going to create an opportunity for mischief or not, but it's something to think about. That's it. That's all I have. Good luck.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it, Norm.
Norm, we still have Liz with her hand raised.
Yes, hi. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, hi. I have to agree. I think that the improvements that have been made to the home over the last couple of years have been beautiful and have certainly increased the aesthetic of the house. I live behind the house up in the white, I live above the Fairfield Lane in the White House on the corner. So I have a view of the oratory regularly. My only concern, it's not even a concern. The fathers have been really wonderful about this, and I've requested it, but I've never really followed through with it on my end. But I thought since construction is going to start happening down there, I would bring it up. We have the Fairfield Lane, which runs between the oratory and my home and the other homes on Center Avenue. The oratory and I share the responsibility for the staircase there. And on a regular basis, my husband and I clean the stairs. They become filled with moss because there isn't a lot of light that gets onto the stairs, and they're slate and they're historic. And there are a few trees, I believe that they're poplar weed trees that are growing on the side of the oratory, and they're actually starting to grow horizontally, or they had been growing horizontally because there's no light. So they're trying to get the light, but now they're growing over top of the lane and over top of the staircase, which decreases even more the amount of sunlight that's there. So on a really wet summer day, they're very dangerous. They're filled with moss, and it's just a lot to maintain. So my request was, and they've been wonderful about this, if maybe when they're doing the landscaping, they could remove the poplar weed trees that are growing vertically and then horizontally over the lane. And then others, it looks like the roots are actually growing into the lane, into the staircase wall. In the past, they've said, just put a yellow ribbon around them and we'll address it. And honestly, I'm the one who's dropped the ball on it, but I thought I would just put it on the radar screen for this project.
Yeah,
Sure.
Liz, I forgot to follow up with you about that. But we did talk about it, and we did intend, especially those couple poplar trees that you mentioned. So yeah, we will certainly hear your concern there. And I know you and I had talked about it, and Brother
I
Kurt
dropped
is
the
our
ball.
resident landscaping expert, so maybe we can confer about which trees need to get cut down.
Okay, well, maybe we could just have a meeting one day and we could walk through and talk about that.
Yeah,
That
and
sounds
to be
good.
honest, I didn't know that I didn't know that we had some responsibility for the staircase.
Half of it.
Yeah, maybe we can come and take a look and see what needs to be done.
It's exhausting.
I just never go up there. And I chide myself for going up there, because the rare occasion I do, it's so nice. But yeah, I'm eager to keep it. I'm eager to keep it properly kept.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Ready? And I thought I saw a Gregory Newman with a hand raised earlier.
Yep, that's Greg with Way.
Oh, okay.
Fine, let him on. I think he wants to comment on the permeable pavers that we're talking about for the path.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
John, Greg.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, just to comment and follow up with a little bit of what Norm was asking about with some of the runoff there. And I know Ray touched upon a little bit with Mike and some of those area drains, but parallel to that large retaining wall in the back, we were contemplating a slotted drain of some sort just to mitigate a little bit of that runoff. So it wouldn't, just be a sheet flow coming across the entire backyard. So that'll probably be making it the next round.
Yep. Yeah, this whole path is going to be brick pavers. I don't know if I mentioned that, which would, and then some type of slot drain. Talk with Ray a little bit further about that, but
right. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks, Greg.
Good. If there are any other questions, feel free to put them in the Q&A tool or raise your hand to speak your question out loud. I am not seeing any other hands raised. And I don't see any new comments. So with that, we thank you and somebody raised their hand? Nope. Okay, so we thank you and we appreciate the presentation today. If anyone has any other questions, are they okay to reach out or connect with you and the project team?
Yes, absolutely.
Very good. All right.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone.
Thank you all so much.
Okay. Have a good night.
Yeah, thank you.
See you guys.
Next up, we have a proposed new parking lot at 5th Avenue and Kirkpatrick. The presenters for that are Steve Otterman and Brian Chanel.
Dave Haynes is going to present.
Okay.
Yeah. It'll be, Steve Otterman with the Department of Mobility and Infrastructure and David Haynes from AECom. Thank you for your time here. So we wanted to give you an overview. I'm sure many of you have heard about the Bus Rapid Transit project. Well, this is associated with that project in order to help mitigate some concerns that we have for a few homes that are losing parking with no recourse. So just a quick update, the Bus Rapid Transit project is moving forward. You may have seen in the newspapers that the downtown portion of the project is is moved forward. We have a contractor on board expecting to start construction later this year. The Uptown and Oakland portion will be going out to bid, meaning going to select a general contractor late this summer into the fall. And we hope that by the end of this calendar year, the beginning of next, we would have them starting construction. The area that we're talking about would therefore be something that would be in the 2025 time range if everything goes according to plan. What you see on the screen here is the intersection of Kirkpatrick Street, which comes from the Hill District south towards Fifth Avenue, which of course traverses east and west. And then you see the end of the Birmingham Bridge to the bottom side of the screen. One of the things that the BRT project is doing is realigning Kirkpatrick Street to better align with Birmingham Bridge. As you go across the bridge or you come down from the hill, you have to do this funny kind of chicane or twisting movement as you go through the intersection. The BRT project has the opportunity to straighten that out some to make for a safer intersection. Now, the area that's on the northeast side, you see the area that's labeled or circled in green there next to several townhouses. Those are city-owned private properties. The city usually purchased from tax sale after a building was demolished as early as 1989, as recently as 2012. So in the last 10 to 30 years, the city has slowly received ownership of about 5 or 6 properties that were once, at one time, 20-foot wide townhouses. But over time, those have been lost. And the city has found themselves owning about 5 or 6 properties on that corner. Currently, it is just a grassy lot with some landscaping provided by the Western Pennsylvania Conservancy. There is a gravel pathway that actually PRT buses use, such as in the case of yesterday when the marathon was running, that they used to divert buses up Kirkpatrick. What we are planning as part of the BRT is that the right-hand lane on Fifth Avenue, as shown in kind of that peach color there where the cars are parked today, that becomes a bus-only travel lane. That means that the 6 townhouses on Fifth Avenue will lose the parking immediately in front of their homes. What's unique about this situation is that there is no available parking within easy access to them, meaning across the street where you see the bus in the aerial photo now, that's part of the contraflow lane, the kind of wrong way bus lane. That is not going to be available for on-street parking. That is going to be part of our bicycle path network. There is not enough available parking on Kirkpatrick Street, nor on Colwell behind, I believe it's Colwell at that point, to accommodate those homes that are facing Fifth Avenue. So we conferred with our legal department and found that the city was at risk of a takings suit if we did not provide some accommodation for those homes. So the city-owned private properties on the northeast corner of Kirkpatrick and Fifth Avenue, we felt it was appropriate to provide off-street parking just limited to those homes. Now, what we are contemplating at this point is that those properties would eventually become public right-of-way, meaning they would be an extension of Kirkpatrick Street. They would actually be in the public right-of-way and would become a Pittsburgh Parking Authority managed resident permit parking area. It may be its own zone, or it may be tied to either the Uptown, West Oakland, or even potentially the South Side area, existing RPP zones. It would contain about 8 parking spaces and would be designated as part of the parking area that would include those 6 homes. So this is unusual in that the BRT project was otherwise 100% in the public right of way, which means we didn't, we went through a development activities meeting, particularly for the bus stations that will be constructed in the street. In this case, this is off-street, private properties the city happens to own. The thought being that we will go through the development activities meeting process. We will go to the Board of Zoning Adjustment to get approval for constructing a surface parking lot within an uptown zoning district that does not normally allow that by right. But once the parking lot is constructed by the BRT contractor in about 2025, it will become public right of way through a separate city council process, and then become a resident permit parking lot essentially within the right of way and available to those homes immediately adjacent to it. So it's a little convoluted, but this is a way of trying to solve what could be a great inconvenience to the residents, but also a unique situation for the city where we really have no other options for those existing residents. Since the property has been in public hands for, in most cases, up to 30 years or more, unfortunately, we're not seeing the kind of development desire to turn this into to building development, residential or otherwise. So it seems like this is the highest and best use for now. Eventually, since this would become public right of way, if conditions were to change and this were a targeted area for future development, then thankfully it is within the city's jurisdiction and power that it could be relinquished and turned back into a development site later. We feel that that's a preferable path forward than turning it into a private property that's somehow managed by the adjacent owners in some association. Just seems like that could be much more problematic than the city taking ownership as a right of way. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to David Haynes from AECom, who will describe the particulars of what the parking lot will be looking like and configured.
Thanks, Dave. Sorry for not being on video, but my computer system isn't quite set up for me to be on video at the same time I'm presenting here. So pardon my lack of seeing me. So what I have here is just the general layout of the site area, including landscaping and identification of various items on the site. So I'll walk through that real quick. Just to come back to the point that we are relocating Kirkpatrick Street. So the existing road comes down here and makes a T, and then there is that jog over to the Birmingham Bridge. So we are relocating the Kirkpatrick Street to the east and aligning it so that the traffic lines up with the bridge traffic. That would be a nice safety improvement for the project and allows for nicer flow of traffic between the two streets. We also have a new bus station that is going here. This is the Soho station located just off the corner of the intersection. And it is a cantilever station that I think it's a 30-footer here at Soho. The parking lot is located here in black. And again, Steve noted that there were 8 spaces that we're providing. There is also pedestrian access to and from the sidewalk area to the parking lot, located here on the eastern side of the parking lot. We have landscaping buffers that will be around the site. I believe there's 10 lilac trees, which the lilac tree is located in the picture to the upper left along the back of the property. Along the front end of the property, we have, let's see, these are the inkberry holly, which are in the bottom right corner. And we are proposing sweet bay magnolia trees, 3 of them, along the corner of Kirkpatrick Street and Fifth. The Sweet Magnolia is located here in the upper right. And then we do have some miniature fountain grass planned for in and around the corner here on the Kirkpatrick Street side, and that is the picture on the bottom left. All of these plantings are approved through the city list, through the city forestry, and we have been working with them to kind of pick these and place these. And in addition, this week we are meeting up again with the Western PA Conservancy, in order to get their input with regard to the plant selection. I believe the intent is that the Conservancy would maintain these elements of landscaping when the project is done. In addition, since we are putting some impervious back in, we do have a stormwater management system that will be underground between the parking lot and the back of sidewalk. So that is some underground storage tanks that underground storage pipes, I will say, not tanks, but they will feed into the existing PWSA sewer system, but are there to retain water for some time before release into the system. We are redoing the sidewalk in this whole area up along Kirkpatrick Street and along the frontage of the parking lot. And of course, when we're moving the intersection, we will be redoing all of the traffic signal locations in this area, putting in brand new ADA ramps and crossings for the intersection. And again, as Steve mentioned, there is the bus lane will come down on the, let's refer to it as the northern curb line. This will be a dedicated bus lane so that it serves the new station. Heading to the east on the lower curb line, the southern curb line, is new sidewalk and proposed two-way cycle track. And I'll go back to the original plan here. You can see here in the red on this plan to the right, that is the dedicated bus lane coming into the station, which is shown in blue. And then the green is the dedicated shared path, which is currently the, as Steve referred to it, as the wrong way bus lane. So that just kind of orients everybody with regard to the plan. Moving on to the next slide, I do have some renderings, some things to note here when you get a look at kind of a 3D version. There are some retaining walls located on the project along the back edge. If you know this property, it is pretty well sloped down from Kirkpatrick Street, slopes down to Fifth Avenue. So we do, in order to try to flatten the lot for parking and ADA access, we do have to incorporate a couple of retaining walls, both along the back edge. You can see it here in the bottom right. There is a small cast in place retaining wall, and along the back of sidewalk here, another small curved wall. This also helps to formulate the retention system that is located between the back of sidewalk and the parking lot. In addition, we are proposing a screening wall that will be elevated above the parking lot. This screen wall will help shade or screen the parked cars from the sidewalk. And I'll move down a little bit more, a couple of different versions of the rendering. You can see here in the upper left, you can see the correlation between the new station shelter, the parking lot, the retaining walls, some of the landscaping and screening on the backside of the lot. And then down in the lower right is standing on Kirkpatrick Street looking into the parking lot. There to note, there will be a light shining down into the parking lot. That is planned to be a screened light so that it focuses the light down to the surface, creating some security lighting for people that are parking here, and being able to navigate through the parking lot and over to the access point down to the sidewalk. One final slide here is just some materials and finishes. Starting in the middle is kind of the proposed split face block pattern that we're going to put on the retaining walls and screening walls. And on to the right, we're proposing some form of a sandstone coloring aspect to those walls that will all match together. So to be 3 elements that all match throughout the site. And then the parking lot is your standard asphalt mix that would be used within any normal parking lot. And that's all the presentation. So open it up to questions.
Yep, happy to take any questions anyone may have.
We currently have Mavis with her hand up.
Hi, folks. Hey, Steve. A few questions, if I may.
Yes.
For the at the intersection of 5th and Kirkpatrick, will there be plans to add a dedicated pedestrian phase or an interval phase when the realignment is done?
Excellent question. Off the top of my head, I don't know if there's a dedicated pedestrian phase, meaning I would interpret that as being an all red phase where people could go in any direction. Certainly there, we are consistent in doing leading pedestrian interval, a 2 to 5 second advance for pedestrians to cross the street before the light turns green for the parallel traffic movement. I would have to look at the traffic signal plans to see if there was a dedicated pedestrian only phase. I'm gonna guess not.
Yeah.
Just because the pedestrian traffic counts that we have are fairly low. What we are planning though is with the new bicycle facility that will greatly increase the number of bicycles that are traversing east to west. So I'd have to look at the signal plans to see what the timing is for those.
Okay. Yeah. Given the current configuration, it is more for vehicles than for pedestrians. But once the 5th Avenue contraflow bus lane disappears and that becomes a dedicated double cycle track for bikes,
yeah.
If there's considerations to look at an interval signal for pedestrians, the size of that intersection, we would hope that you would consider a longer phase, especially for folks who want to travel diagonal. We know that always takes a little bit longer than just crossing from one side to the other.
Yeah.
Also, too, with that signal, any plans for a bike turning box or a dedicated bike signal like we have at the intersection of Forbes and I want to say Belfield? There's dedicated accommodations for cyclists to be able to, like a bike turning signal. Given the plan for the new double cycle track in that area, I just want to kind of put that out there.
Sure. Yeah, and we're actually going to receive updated drawings from AECOM next week. Actually, a week from tomorrow. With the latest drawings for this particular area. So, regarding bicycle track turning movements, we do have people coming on and off Birmingham Bridge. Not many, but there will be more once we build this project. The northbound coming off the bridge to get to the cycle track, you'll see is on the right-hand side of the bridge in that diagram to the right, on the right side. So that bike lane lands within the cycle track.
Okay.
That's a 10-foot wide then area where they could stop and wait to turn left outside of the traffic travel lane. Going the opposite direction, if somebody is coming, say, from uptown or downtown and wants to take a right to go south on Birmingham Bridge, that's a right turn movement from the cycle track into a lane, a buffered lane on the bridge. There are ideas, and I'm just going to call them ideas so far in the in the Hill District neighborhood plan, master plan update, of doing a climbing lane on Kirkpatrick for bicycles going northbound up the hill. And so if that is to occur, then we'd be working through the details of how to make that work. But currently we're thinking most of the traffic is going to go east to west, and then some of them on and off the bridge.
Okay.
But I'll definitely look into I'm going to make a note here, and we'll look at the signal timing and what we think the anticipated movements are for bikes and peds at the intersection.
Okay, wait, one more question. Steve, do you know if there's going to be signage to identify that the new residential parking lot is just that, it's for permitted residential parking only, to avoid folks, trying to park in that area, and that, will be problematic for residents who live adjacent to it?
Yes, it will have same or similar RPP zone parking only signs as we see in the neighborhoods. We have a precedent on the north side of a parking area that's kind of on an extended or side street. It's still signed RPP with the zone and the restrictions, and then it is enforced by the PPA. So we are planning the same approach given that precedent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Righty, and we also have Andrea with a hand raised.
Hey, hi, I'm sorry. Just a real quick question. Am I correct in understanding that there is no bus service that climbs Kirkpatrick, right?
There's no bus service that climbs Kirkpatrick?
Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. Pretty much the only time PRT climbs Kirkpatrick is on actually Pittsburgh Marathon days,
Right,
where the course doesn't allow them to go down Fifth Avenue. So they come Fifth westbound, and then they turn right to go up Kirkpatrick. My understanding is that there's no plans currently for a bus to go north on Kirkpatrick.
I just feel like that's one of those things that PRT should sort of leave itself open to in the future. It's a desire line to connect north-south that you don't currently have. There isn't that kind of facility doesn't exist here. So you're kind of around every possible bus route will take you out of the way if what you're trying to do is just go straight up the hill.
Yeah.
And in terms of, like the food desert, et cetera, situation, and for almost all of the people who are up there, right, that the closest big grocery store is the Southside Giant Eagle. So there's actually a thriving jitney industry that will take you down that hill. But, it seems like something that PRT could explore in the future. But I also, in terms of, I'm intrigued by the solution. I think this is actually a good solution to the problem. Which is, I think, probably, I hope, the first and last time that anyone will ever say, like, surface parking lot, good idea. But this is an elegant way to solve the problem, and I appreciate the spirit in which it's being offered. In terms of like the highest best use situation that you brought up earlier about the city's property, and how this might have been potentially something that could be attractive to development. I'm just kind of curious to know if there is, it's sort of following on Mavis's questions, any consideration that PRT gave to the idea that this could be something that is more pedestrian friendly and potentially could drive more foot traffic in a place that then could be seen as a place that like a local business might want to locate itself. Like right now, there's just no point. There's no point in having something that relies on passersby, because there are no passersby. Everybody's just driving through this intersection as fast as they can. So like if there is a bus stop there that people can linger at, that is the kind of thing that, like, if there's a bus stop, maybe there's a place to get a cup of coffee. And if there's DLC I think is building something catty corner to this, right, the big substation, and there might be some opportunity to put some greenery there that would not make it like horrendous to hang out in the shade. Potentially that opposite corner could, for instance, attract something that could offer something to passersby. I'm just trying to think about the future of that little intersection.
Yeah, and talking with our colleagues here at the city, that was one of the questions we had, is like, what's the likelihood of something in the near term, something better coming along, and at the same time, being able to relieve the demand that the nearby residents have for a place to park. And we're hedging our bets, but we think that, near term, it's unlikely. There is a development that's been talked about for years on the northwest corner. Maybe that'll move forward. We have talked about whether, as part of that development, they could provide some resident parking opportunities to help relieve actually this parcel and put it back into developable condition. To the southwest corner, yes, the Duquesne Light is building a substation. Those are not pedestrian friendly. Can't get into it, so it's challenged, and that's not likely to change for a long time. The southeast corner is challenged by topography as it slopes down to Forbes Avenue quite steeply. We do have just a couple buildings on the southeast side, further away from the intersection. B Fields Motors, Sunshine Daycare, and then further up the street, Allegheny County has a building that is currently vacant. If you look at the long
Monuments,
arc,
right?
yeah, if you look at the long arc of this area, it's not developing, it's undeveloping. We would like to see something different in the future. We do think that by converting it ultimately to right of way, that does allow the city some flexibility, so long as there's not a demand for those neighbors to have this space for their use. So
I agree. And I wasn't suggesting it's your job to like think of a way to solve the development problem of this intersection, which has been a disaster since the Birmingham Bridge was built, if not before. So
Yeah.
just in terms of like leaving space open for, in a good way or a constructive way, as opposed to just kind of like, to be able to prompt better uses. I honestly agree with you. The south side of Fifth Avenue, that whole length between this intersection and Oakland certainly is just untenable and is likely at some point or another just to be best used as a greenway. But anyway, that's just an opinion.
yeah,
But this is, I think, a good use.
thank you.
Why lilac trees, though?
And the Conservancy is, they said they have two priorities these days, given their funding. One is green infrastructure, the others is butterfly gardens. So they were very much interested in continuing maintenance of the landscaping because of the green infrastructure incorporation of that. I will also add that the screening wall, we are, as a city, we're constantly concerned about graffiti or other things. It is a potential canvas for a public art opportunity that we think could be beneficial. So moving forward, we hope to go in that direction.
You can give me this.
Thank you. Steve, what was the schedule? And then do you know if there's going to be any type of impact during the, I guess, the site preparation, and then for the actual construction to any current buses traveling down Fifth, the pedestrian movement on the sidewalk? Can you share that?
Well, the construction right now is anticipated in 2025. We look at, and we will know the definitive schedule once a contractor's on board later this year. Our engineering team, AECOM, has come up with we think, a very smart plan for how to approach this. The contractors always have a different idea, so we shall see what the schedule actually is. But we are projecting mid to late 2025. So like construction is starting around August, September of 2025. The parking lot itself is only going to take about a month or 6 weeks from start to finish. It's not very complicated. There is the sidewalk reconstruction that will take place to rehab and replace the sidewalks. That will be the greatest disruption to pedestrians. We do have MPT plans that would show how to divert, because there's really not an opportunity to cross the street there and use an alternative detour. So we'll provide a diversion at that location. The whole intent, though, is to have the parking lot complete and available to be used before we remove the parking on Fifth, meaning before we would start reconstruction of the sidewalk. That gives the adjacent homeowners and residents an uninterrupted a resource to park. But all of that will occur over the course of about 2 to 3 months in late 2025. So I don't anticipate there's going to be pedestrian issues or parking issues or frankly, significant traffic issues.
Thank you.
And then we do have one comment in the chat. If WPC would like to invite butterfly garden plantings, annuals as well as perennials, would encourage some beds to the north end by the lilac trees. I always feel like I don't do your comments justice, Andrea.
Tolstoy, you're not giving it the proper.
I know.
No, that's a good point. Between the lilac trees and that building, 110 Kirkpatrick Street, that's also city-owned property. So we're talking with the gentleman at the Conservancy this week, actually, I think later this week, about the details. He's already requested that he can salvage the materials that they've planted out there so they could reuse them, keep the bushes and trees or relocate them. So we're gonna look to him to make some suggestions of how they can do the best they can with what we have. But even if they don't do anything, we feel we've got the proper kind of landscape screening and some opportunities. And this dovetails well with the rest of the landscaping and the rest of the BRT corridor. But I appreciate that thought. Yes, I'd love to see the more butterfly plantings in this location.
I don't see any more comments in the Q&A or the chat tool. Mavis still has her hand up. Still has a hand up. I'm not sure if there was another comment.
Actually, it was related to the BRT schedule for when you anticipate the BRT to be completed in that area, the dedicated bus lane, and then also the installation for the bus shelter, but we can talk offline.
Sure, absolutely. Happy to do that.
Mavis or Steve, does either of you happen to know if there's a pogo station that's in any way started to thinking about this intersection? This would be a really great place for a pogo stop.
No, I agree with you. I think this could be a very interesting mobility hub location. Pogo, no, they haven't gotten to this location yet. There's a spot in front of the Fifth Avenue lofts that I know we've coordinated with them on regarding BRT. And I've heard
Atwood and Bates is the other location.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking in terms of like coming, if you get off the bus, then you take the bike and then maybe you could shoot yourself over the hill in one of the electric pogo stations.
E-bikes. Yeah, absolutely. Or a scooter. I mean, there's.
Andrew, you actually said you want to see scooters?
I didn't say scooter. I said the e-bikes.
Okay. All right. Just
did not say
that.
scooters.
Just wanted to confirm
that. Scooters, no.
Well, I will make note that on Kirkpatrick Street, there's a little bump out there on the left-hand side. There's space for 3 cars. It could be zip car, could be, something else.
Just thinking about bike route connectivity planning, if there is some way to encourage the bike shares that will take you up and over the hill, then I'm here for it.
Okay. Well, we'll mention that to them next time we get to meet with the Pogo folks.
2027 expansion plan.
We will be done by then.
If you could put in a good word for Squirrel Hill, that would be really great. There's not a single Pogo station in Squirrel Hill.
Okay.
Anyway.
Are there any other questions?
I don't see any other hands or any other comments in the Q&A or chat. Okay. Thank you so much, Steve. Appreciate the presentation this evening. If any of the community organizations have any other follow-up questions, are they free to reach out to you directly?
Absolutely.
All right. And so that concludes our agenda for the evening. And we can go ahead and stop the meeting here. I'm going to stop recording.